Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Ramon, Looby, CEO of the Maryland Bankers Association, to discuss the future of the banking industry. Ramon has also been recognized as a leading government relations strategist with extensive experience navigating complex policy issues among diverse stakeholders across the United States. Ramon, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Jill, thank you. It's great to be with you.
Ramon, how have Maryland banks responded to the current pandemic?
Well, Jill, when you think about the pandemic and going back to March 2020 and where the world was, what the country was facing, you basically had dueling emergencies in the form of a very serious public health crisis, one of which we hadn't seen in over a century. At the same time, you had a very serious economic situation, thinking back to March 2020, where 20 million Americans lost their job in that month. And even today, where you look at an economic backdrop in which we have 9 million fewer jobs than we did at the end of February 2020. And so there was a bit of uncertainty. There was a lot of fear in the marketplace. And so when you think about what our member banks have done, Maryland banks have stepped up in a tremendous way since the onset of the pandemic. And if you think about what our members are doing, acting almost as economic first responders, deploying CARES Act funding, now deploying American Recovery Act funds, the Economic Impact Payment funds, and of course the Paycheck Protection Program loans. And I just want to focus on that for just a second and think about what PPP allowed Maryland banks to do and served as a lifeline to thousands of Maryland businesses by supporting up to 1 million jobs here in the state of 6 million folks. I've heard stories from bankers and small business owners alike about bankers packaging loans at their kitchen tables at the height of the pandemic, or even through drive-throughs, to really ensure that we were getting this aid out to those in need. And so, in terms of impact, you just take a look at, breaking it up by round one and round two of PPP. At the end of round one, at the end of August last year, small businesses and nonprofits across Maryland received about 86,000 forgivable loans totaling $10 billion. And Maryland banks were at the forefront of providing those forgivable loans and getting connected to their customers to ensure that they have what they need. And then you think about round two, which began earlier this year. As of February, almost 35,000 loans have already been made, totaling about $3 billion. So aside from that work, banks have been working to extend, the government programs, but they have also quickly responded to economic and societal shocks, and have remained connected to their customers by all of them at the same time, keeping their employees safe and supporting the communities they serve. It has been an incredible thing to see.
It certainly has. And Ramon, let's shift gears for a moment here. Let's talk about tax season, right? We just learned that it's going to be extended for an extra month. What advice do you have for customers looking to receive their tax returns on time, as well as their stimulus benefits?
That's a great question. And here in Maryland, actually, there have been recent legislation that provided for a state-specific stimulus program and benefits as well. So that timing is just right. And so, earlier today, we heard from the IRS that more than 90 million families have already received their EIP payments, or those economic impact payments. And that was done because they had access to bank accounts. And so when you think about what the IRS is dealing with and having to actually push off and allow for extra time to take in tax returns and all of that, you think about just everything that's going on and the crush of activity there. But what's most fundamental and critical is that taxpayers or folks who are thinking about or recipients of these benefits, that they think about establishing a bank account. Bank accounts are the fastest, safest, and most secure way to get money to eligible individuals and families through bank deposits, direct deposits, or even in some cases, reloadable debit cards. NBA recently highlighted our long tenured support for the FDIC's Get Banked initiative and other bank-on initiatives. These programs are designed to help low to moderate income families and individuals attain safe, affordable, and effective bank accounts. And so, as I just sort of mentioned, the FDIC Bank program, if you go and check out their website, they have provide clear steps how to create, how to review and create opportunities for you to access those bank accounts.
And what do you think the future looks like for the banking industry as a whole?
Well, think about what we just sort of went through as an industry. At a moment's notice, you had to move all of your operations remotely, right? Banks were not immune to the public health issues, so we had to take the exact same steps to ensure that we kept our team members and our customers safe. And so, when you think about the investments that banks have made in terms of providing digital and mobile products in which customers can access their financial service, or actually meet their financial services needs while they're on the go, or while they're at home, or getting on the road. We've seen that those investments really have had a tremendous return on investment, as you see exactly what has happened through this pandemic. And so I believe that you'll see greater investments in that space, directly around mobile and digital opportunities to access financial services. But let's not forget, brick and mortar will always have a really important role to play as our members deliver those services to the communities they serve.
And finally, Ramon, in the last minute, I'd like to tap into your experience with policy. What are the key policy issues stakeholders are focused on right now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I would tell you, take a look at what's happening in the Congress, right? Um, y- I think across our industry, the number one priority is ending this pandemic. And I think that's echoed by what you're seeing from policymakers at the federal and state level. As I noted, policymakers remain focused on ending the pandemic and providing necessary support to the economy. The recent comments from the Federal Reserve Chair just yesterday and the passage of the American Recoveries Act illustrate this point, as does the ongoing work in the Congress to extend the PPP program beyond the March 31st end date. Banks want to ensure that no one gets left out, and we applaud the bipartisan efforts in Congress to ensure that PPP will be available to businesses who need the added support as the country continues to roll out vaccines and mitigate this public health crisis.
Ramon, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thanks, Joe.